Here's something that'll blow your mind. A couple earning $133,000 a year is more likely to go bankrupt than a single-income family from the 1970s making half that amount. Yes, you heard that right. More money, more problems isn't just a rap lyric, it's an economic reality that's destroying the American middle class. And if you're working full-time while your partner grinds just as hard, yet you still can't figure out why there's nothing left at the end of the month, you're about to discover you've been caught in the biggest financial con of the last 50 years. I've spent years analyzing why modern households are financially weaker than ever, despite earning record incomes. What I'm about to show you will completely change how you think about work, money, and family finances. But fair warning, once you see this trap, you can't unsee it. Let's talk about math that should work, but doesn't. If one person earning $50,000 could support a family in 1970, then logically, two people each earning $50,000 today should support that same family and have $50,000 left over for savings, investments, and building generational wealth. That's not advanced economics. That's elementary school addition. 1 plus 1 should equal 2. Except it doesn't. Not even close. Instead, we've got dual-income households living paycheck to paycheck, one car repair away from credit card debt, stressed beyond belief, and wondering where all the money went. Both partners working themselves to exhaustion, barely seeing each other during the week, and still feeling financially fragile. Something broke in the equation, and nobody bothered to tell us. Here's the couple I want you to visualize. She works in marketing pulling $62,000 annually. He's in IT making $71,000. Combined, they're at $133,000, top 25% of American households. On paper, they're crushing it. In reality, they've got maybe 8 weeks of expenses saved, their last unexpected car repair went on plastic, and they're exhausted. They did everything society told them to do. Got degrees, built careers, got married, bought the house in the good school district, and yet they're drowning. Why does a 6-figure household feel broke? That's the question we're answering today. Hit subscribe if you've ever looked at your combined income and thought, we make too much to feel this poor. The story we've been sold is simple and seductive. 2 incomes are always better than 1. More workers, more money, more security. It's the American Dream 2.0. Except this dream has a dark side that Harvard bankruptcy professor Elizabeth Warren uncovered back in 2003, before she became a senator, when she was just an academic studying financial disasters. Warren and her daughter studied over 2,000 bankruptcy cases, looking for patterns. What they found was shocking. Families with 2 working parents were more likely to file bankruptcy than single-income families. Not less. More. Let that marinate for a second. Working twice as hard, bringing home 2 paychecks, doing exactly what the modern economy demands, and you're more likely to lose everything. Warren called this phenomenon the 2-income trap, and it's one of the most important economic concepts almost nobody talks about. This isn't a personal finance failure. This is a systematic trap, and chances are you're standing right in the middle of it. The bait was doubling your income. The switch was tripling your fixed costs and eliminating your backup plan. And most people don't realize they've been caught until it's too late. To understand the trap, we need to rewind to 1970. Back then, about 43% of women participated in the workforce. The typical middle-class setup? 1 breadwinner, usually dad, and 1 parent managing the home, usually mom. And here's the part that shocks people. That single income was legitimately enough. Not scraping by. Actually enough. According to Bureau of Labor Statistics data, a median single-income family in 1970 spent about 25% of their income on housing. 25%. They could afford the median-priced home, put kids in reasonably well-funded public schools regardless of zip code, cover basic health care, own a car, buy food, and still have money left for savings and the occasional vacation. They had margin. They had breathing room. And here's the kicker. They had a backup plan. If the breadwinner lost their job or got sick, the stay-at-home parent could enter the workforce. That second potential income was like an insurance policy sitting in reserve, ready to deploy in emergencies. It was financial resilience built into the system. Now flash forward to 2023. Female workforce participation is around 57%, much higher among married mothers. Over 60% of married couples with kids have both parents working. We've essentially activated that emergency backup plan as the default setting. And median household income? About $74,000, significantly higher than 1970 when adjusted for inflation. We're making more money. So why does everything feel harder? Because costs exploded. Not just increased, exploded. Median home prices in 1970, adjusted for inflation, were around $200,000 in today's dollars. The 2023 median? Over $400,000. Housing costs have literally doubled relative to inflation. You need twice the purchasing power just to buy the same house. Healthcare spending per household has increased over 600% since 1970. 600%. Childcare, which barely registered as an expense when someone was home, now costs the average American family $11,000 per year per child. And that's average. In high-cost areas, you're looking at $20,000 to $30,000 annually per kid. College education costs have risen over 1,200% since 1980. Every single dollar from that second income got absorbed. The fixed costs of being middle class expanded to consume both incomes, and you burned your backup plan just to maintain baseline expenses. The two-income family doesn't have double the security of the 1970s single-income family. They have less, because they're operating at maximum capacity with zero margin for error. Let me show you the brutal math of what actually happens to that second income. Say one partner makes $70,000 and the other makes $50,000. That's $120,000 combined. Sounds impressive, right? Let's track where that $50,000 second income actually goes. First, taxes. Because of progressive tax brackets, that second income gets taxed at the highest marginal rate. The first $70,000 fills up the lower brackets, but that additional $50,000 comes in at the top of the stack. When you factor in federal income tax, state income tax, and payroll taxes, the effective rate on that second income can hit 30 to 35% or more. So $50,000 immediately becomes about $32,500 in actual take-home. But we're just getting started. Got kids? You need childcare. Average daycare costs about $15,000 per year per child. 2 kids? That's $30,000 gone. Your $50,000 is now worth $2,500, and you haven't even factored in commuting yet. 2 working parents means 2 commutes. The average American commute costs about $5,000 per year in gas, maintenance, and vehicle depreciation. Need parking downtown? Add another $2,000 to $3,000. Need a second car you wouldn't otherwise need? Add the payment, insurance, registration. Call it $8,000 total. Your $50,000 is now negative $5,500. But wait, there's more. 2 exhausted workers means less time for cooking, cleaning, home maintenance. Studies show dual-income families spend significantly more on convenience: food delivery, house cleaners, lawn services, pre-made meals. Nobody has energy to cook after a 10-hour day plus commute. These exhaustion expenses easily add another $5,000 to $10,000 per year. Let's add it up. $50,000 minus $18,000 taxes, minus $15,000 childcare, minus $8,000 commuting, minus $7,000 convenience expenses equals $2,000. That's the net contribution. Someone is working full-time, missing their kids' childhoods, grinding through traffic, stressed to the max, and the household nets $2,000 for the year. That's $8 per workday. That's $1 per hour. Here's where it gets insidious. Because the gross numbers look big. You see that $120,000 on your tax return, and you feel successful. You make spending decisions based on that number. You buy a house based on what two incomes can qualify for. The bank looks at your combined income and approves you for a $400,000 mortgage. And technically, you can afford it, as long as both incomes keep flowing forever. As long as neither of you gets sick, laid off, burned out, needs to care for aging parents, has a child with special needs, or encounters any of the 1,000 unexpected life events humans face. That's where the trap snaps shut. The single-income family from 1970 had something you don't: flexibility. If the breadwinner lost their job, the stay-at-home parent could find work. Not ideal, but it was a backup. It was margin. It was resilience. The two-income family has already played that card. Both incomes are already fully committed to the monthly expenses. There's no backup income to activate. If either partner loses income, the family can't maintain their fixed costs even temporarily, because those costs were sized for two incomes. This is why Warren's research found two-income families were more likely to file bankruptcy. Not because they were irresponsible, because they had no margin for error. They were running at 100% capacity with no reserves, like driving a car with no oil. Everything works fine until it doesn't, and then everything breaks at once. A 2019 Federal Reserve study found that 40% of American adults couldn't cover a $400 emergency expense without borrowing or selling something. And many of those people are in dual-income households making solid money on paper. They're not broke because they don't earn enough. They're broke because their expenses expanded to consume every dollar of their combined earnings. Now here's where it gets really interesting. The expenses that consumed that second income weren't luxury items. They weren't boats and designer handbags and tropical vacations, at least not primarily. They were housing, childcare, healthcare, and education. The fixed costs of participating in the middle class. Let's focus on housing because this is where the bidding war effect becomes crystal clear. In the single-income era, families competed for houses based on one income. When two-income families became the norm, families suddenly had twice the purchasing power for the same houses. What do you think happened to prices? They got bid up, way up. If everyone has two incomes, then two incomes become the baseline requirement. You don't get ahead with two incomes. You need two incomes just to afford what one income used to buy. It's an arms race where everyone escalated and nobody won. The same thing happened with education. School districts are funded by property taxes, which means good schools exist in expensive neighborhoods. Parents want to live near good schools, so they bid up property prices in those districts using their dual incomes. Warren calls this the bidding war for educational opportunity. The price of admission to good public schools became a $400,000 mortgage instead of a $200,000 mortgage. You're not paying tuition, but you're paying the tuition equivalent in your housing costs. And once you're locked into that mortgage, you're locked into needing both incomes forever. You can't downshift. You can't go back to one income. The trap has closed. Now you might be thinking, okay, this is depressing, but what am I supposed to do? We need both incomes to survive. And I get it. That's the trap talking. You need both incomes to survive the lifestyle you've built around both incomes. There's a difference. Most families build their lives backward. They treat both incomes as permanent and guaranteed, then build their fixed costs accordingly. They buy the house two incomes can afford. They lease the cars two incomes can support. They commit to schools and activities two incomes can pay for, and then they're stuck. They've built a life that requires both incomes to function, which means neither partner can ever stop working, even if they want to, even if circumstances make it necessary. There's a better way. I call it the one-income foundation principle. You structure your fixed costs, your non-negotiable monthly expenses, so they can be covered by one income alone. The second income becomes entirely discretionary. Savings, investments, debt payoff, or yes, some lifestyle enhancement. But the critical difference is you could survive without it. Let me make this concrete. Say your household makes $130,000 combined, $75,000 and $55,000. Instead of taking on a mortgage that requires $100,000 plus in annual income to service, you take on a mortgage comfortably covered by $60,000. Instead of 2 car payments, you have one or none. You live in a neighborhood that's maybe slightly less prestigious, with schools that are good but not elite. You buy the house that one income can afford, and you bank the difference. That second income, or at least the majority of it, goes straight into wealth building. Emergency fund first, then retirement accounts, then taxable investments. Every dollar you invest is buying back optionality. It's buying the flexibility to have one partner step back if needed, to take a career risk, to handle a health crisis, to be present for aging parents. It's buying actual choice. This requires sacrifice in the short term. It means driving past nice houses you could technically qualify for. It means explaining to friends why you're not upgrading your lifestyle even though you got a raise. It means resisting the social pressure to spend like a dual-income family because you're building like a single-income family. But here's the payoff. Within 5 to 10 years of this approach, something magical happens. The investments you made with that second income start generating their own income. Compounding takes over. And suddenly you actually have what you thought dual incomes would give you in the first place: genuine financial security. You're no longer 2 job losses away from crisis. You're building wealth instead of treading water. You can make decisions based on what's best for your family rather than what's necessary to make the mortgage payment. That's freedom. That's what our grandparents had with one income that we've traded away. Think about what this means practically. It means if one partner gets a bad health diagnosis, they can focus on treatment without the panic of losing the house. It means if your aging parent needs care, one of you can step back without financial disaster. It means if you hate your job, you can take time to find the right next move instead of clinging to a toxic situation because you're financially trapped. It means you're not making life decisions based on fear. You're making them based on what actually serves your family. And that is what wealth is supposed to buy. Not bigger houses or fancier cars, but options. The two-income trap isn't really about income at all. It's about flexibility. It's about margin. It's about having options. Our grandparents with one income had something we've systematically traded away: the ability to absorb a shock, to change direction, to have one partner focus on family without the whole financial structure collapsing. We traded that flexibility for bigger houses and nicer cars and the appearance of prosperity. But appearances aren't wealth. Cash flow isn't security. And 2 incomes aren't better than 1 if both are already spent before they arrive. The families who thrive financially in the modern economy aren't the ones earning the most. They're the ones who've preserved their flexibility, who've refused to let expenses expand to consume income, who've kept their backup plan in reserve instead of deploying it just to keep up with the Joneses. There's enormous social pressure to spend like a dual-income household. Your friends buy the bigger house, so you feel like you should too. Your co-workers drive new cars, so your 10-year-old sedan feels embarrassing. Your kids' classmates go on expensive vacations, so you feel guilty about your camping trip. But here's what nobody tells you. Most of those people are broke. They're living on the edge. They're one medical emergency or job loss away from disaster. Their big house and new cars are financed to the hilt. They look successful, but they're financially fragile. You're not competing with their real financial situation. You're competing with their facade. And that's a game you can't win and shouldn't want to play. Real wealth is quiet. It's boring. It's driving the paid-off car while your investment accounts compound in the background. It's living in the modest house while you have 6 months of expenses in the bank and growing retirement accounts. The people who look rich are usually poor. The people who are actually rich usually don't look it. That's the secret the consumer economy doesn't want you to know. You can't earn your way out of a trap you don't know you're in. That's the whole point. For decades, families have been working harder, earning more, and feeling more financially stressed without understanding why. They blame themselves. They think they're bad with money. They think everyone else has it figured out. But it's not you. It's the system. The economic rules changed underneath your feet, and nobody sent a memo. The single-income model that worked for our grandparents got replaced by a two-income model that looks better on paper but works worse in practice. You're not failing. You're succeeding at a game that was rigged from the start. Now that you see the trap, you can start making different choices. You can question whether you really need to buy the house at the top of your qualification range. You can ask whether that second car payment is actually necessary or just convenient. You can evaluate whether you're building financial resilience or just building a prettier cage. Here's my challenge to you. Look at your second income with honest eyes. Calculate what it's actually worth after taxes, childcare, commuting, and exhaustion expenses. You might be shocked. You might be working full-time for the equivalent of minimum wage when you factor in all the hidden costs. Then ask yourself, what would it take to live on one income? Not forever, not necessarily, but as a foundation. What would you need to change? What could you cut? What would you gain in flexibility, in resilience, in options? The two-income trap is real, and it's powerful, but it's not inevitable. You can build differently. You can choose flexibility over facade. You can prioritize options over appearances. You can create the financial margin our grandparents had, not by earning less, but by spending strategically and investing the difference. This isn't about going back to the 1950s. This isn't about anyone giving up their career. This is about building your financial life in a way that serves you instead of trapping you. It's about making choices with your eyes open instead of sleepwalking into the same trap everyone else fell into. If this video changed how you think about money and work, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss future content. Drop a comment telling me your biggest takeaway. And if you know someone caught in the two-income trap who needs to hear this, share this video with them. Sometimes the most valuable thing you can give someone is a new way of seeing their situation. Remember, you're not broke because you don't earn enough. You're broke because the game changed and nobody told you the new rules. Now you know. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.